Okay, here we are back again, this time with a Tram D62. This is my personal radio. It is now, just got it. I bought this as a parts chassis and hadn't really had any plans of doing anything with it other than if I ever needed any parts, channel selectors, certain parts, kind of impossible to find nowadays for some of these older chassis. But actually got to looking at it, I thought, well, actually it doesn't look too bad a condition. I mean, this is what I received was, actually I've added screws to the side. The faceplate was dangling, controls were hanging out, so these nuts actually I screwed that back in just temporarily to keep it from flopping around. I'm actually in the middle of taking it back apart again. I thought I'd do a quick video on it. But like I say, it looks complete other than, the cabinet's missing, the knobs, the nuts, screws, and speaker. Actually looks complete. The only thing that looked like ever been really done to it was somebody at one point in time, and these were already unhooked, they were just flopping around in here. I coiled them up. Somebody did a channel modification, so yeah, they drilled a hole in the cabinet, at least it's in the back. So that'll all get removed if I do get this up and running. But from the looks of it, they had a bad short. Because first thing I did was, like I say, I'd put this, basically reassembled it. I screwed the faceplate back in, put some nuts on the controls, so this was mounted back in there, hooked it up to a power supply, and, well, actually, before I hooked it up to a power supply, I found this in the fuse holder. You can tell by looking how thick that is. This is a 20 amp fuse. Matter of fact, you can see that there, I think. Yeah, that is showing up. 20. That is definitely too big for this radio. This should be like a 3 amp fuse in this radio. That is the only thing. I hate it when people, and to make matters worse, after this fuse blew, if you noticed in the side of the picture, there's a piece of aluminum foil laying here, because when I opened the fuse holder, this is what I found. A fuse wrapped with aluminum foil. Come on, guys. Really? That's what comes to mind when I see stuff like that. And I'll show you what this causes. What doing this right here. For starters, putting the 20 amp fuse in, and then when that blows, to exacerbate problems even worse, to wrap it in aluminum foil. What stupidity, and there's no other way to put it other than that. That is just absolute blatant stupidity. If the fuse blows, this fuse is here for a reason. It's here to protect this radio, protect the components, protect all the circuit traces from frying. It's a protection device. When you go installing something like a 20 amp fuse, and then when that blows and wrap it up in aluminum foil, you're asking to let the smoke out. There was a draw. Fix the actual problem. Just trying to install larger, it's just like in your car. You blow a fuse in your car, you go wrapping a piece of bubblegum wrapper around it, and you wonder why your truck catches on fire because the wiring harness went up in smoke. Well, that's because you do stuff like this. This radio is no different. And like I say, after I put a proper 3 amp fuse in here, which is what's in this fuse holder now, turned it on, nothing. It's completely dead. So let me get some light down in here. It's kind of hard to see because it is hidden by this ribbon cable, but get this wire out of the way. But if you can see up under there, get a pointer. It's kind of hard to see, but this trace right here, if you follow it down, it's black, it's charred, and actually it's almost impossible to see because it's tucked up underneath of this ribbon cable. It's actually blown off on the one side. It's burned off completely. It's burned in half. Part of it's missing. So, whatever the problem is in this radio, yeah, you can see it's blown in half right there. So, whatever the problem is with this radio, it's got a dead short. That's fine. If the fuse blows, that's great. Send it out to get it fixed. Doing stuff like this causes more damage like that. Previously, there was probably only something like a bad capacitor shorted, audio amp IC, a transistor. There's a component went bad. There's no doubt about that. Something caused that. But when you go sticking these monster fuses in, 20 amps, good lord, this thing's it's not like this is a 150 watt radio. You don't need a 20 amp fuse. So, appropriately sized fuses prevent, there we go, we can get down in there and see that a little bit better. Tilt the radio up. You can see how charred and black that is. Like I say, it's actually blown in half. But installing the wrong size fuse causes things like that. So I'll do a quick jumper. If I can get this radio working, I'll actually do a proper circuit trace repair. But just for the time being, I'll jumper that to try and get power back into the chassis and properly diagnose it. And the easiest way nowadays, actually, with a FLIR camera or a thermal imaging camera, sometimes you could track down dead shorts like that fairly easily in something like this. The problem is, does the part heat up enough before the fuse, before your fuse blows, can often be the problem there. But a little tip to tracking down dead shorts, which is apparently what this thing has. If it's, the current draw is excessive enough to burn up traces, and to be needing a 20 amp fuse that blew and then wrap it in aluminum foil, that's an extreme current draw in this thing. So the easiest thing to do is pull the schematic for your radio. Look at the power distribution or power supply circuit. Especially if it's a base station radio, you'll have a 120 down to 13.8 volt power supply. But look at your power distribution, where your powers come, and you can even see the positive wire on this. That was another thing. See this inductor right here? They just take a piece of enamel wire, it's wrapped around one of these ferrite cores here. You see how black that is? See how this one's nice? Actually, this is the positive, this is the negative. You see how this is what it's supposed to look like? You see how black and charred that is? That's because by somebody sticking in this monster fuse overloaded the circuit. And this is another one of the, I don't want to say it's a weak point, but that's another spot that was easy for it to overheat. So, it's burned that up, so that's another thing that'll have to get replaced. Wrap a new piece of enamel wire around there and stick that in. But the easiest way to try and diagnose things like that sometimes, dead shorts, is literally just to start, I'm not going to say you have to completely remove components, but you can disable circuits, entire circuits in a radio. So it's not hard to, especially not in maybe this radio, and like I say, this is just in general, but a lot of times in older radios they had relays. The relays did a lot of this switching for the power from receive to transmit and to a lot of the circuits. So you could pull the relay. That'll kill a lot of circuits in the radio. So if you turn it on with the relay out and the fuse doesn't blow, then you know it's something that relay is supplying power to. You can also do things like, if you suspect it might be something in the audio circuit, like the audio amp IC, something like that. If you think it might be the audio amp IC, it's fairly simple. You don't have to completely remove it. Look at the schematic, figure out which pin is the main supply voltage to it. Just unsolder that one pin and fold it up so it's unhooked. Same thing with transistors, especially in these. It's a lot of transistors. It's fairly simple to just unsolder a leg, pull it off to the side, disables that circuit, and you can check and see if you're, but that way you can start to narrow down into, a smaller and smaller circuit where your problem might be. But, like I say, this is not proper procedure. This is what caused that. So, do yourself a favor. Save the aluminum foil for cooking, and save the 20 amp fuses for whatever you need a 20 amp fuse for. Definitely not this. This should have a 3 amp fuse. So there's just a tip to keep your radio from going up in smoke, which is basically that's what this one did. It went up in smoke. And actually, if I do decide, if it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad, because like I say, it looks like it's in fairly good condition. If I do get this one up and running, I'll do a video to actually show what was wrong with this thing. What caused the dead short in this system. So to possibly return if this is a, not too bad to fix. Because like I say, I got it cheap for parts chassis. I feel bad delegating it to the scrap pile because it's actually fairly nice. So possible return.